On November 30th, 2022, something dropped that, well, pretty much changed everything for millions of people, almost overnight. That tool was ChatGPT. So today, we're going to break down exactly what this technology is, how it really works, and the huge questions it's forcing us to ask, all based on a fantastic overview from the Harvard Kennedy School.
And look, this wasn't just another app. Tech leaders like Aaron Levy saw it right away. This felt different. It wasn't just a small step up from old tech. It felt like page one of a brand new chapter, One that's going to rewrite the rules for pretty much everyone.
And it wasn't just the CEOs, the public felt it too. To put this in perspective, it took Netflix 3.5 years to get to 1 million users. Facebook, 10 months. ChatGPT did it in 5 days. That kind of speed it's absolutely unheard of. It showed that the world was more than ready for a tool like this.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at what made this breakthrough feel so completely different. Then, we'll pop the hood and see how this AI stuff actually writes. After that, we'll dive into a real-world case study on university admissions to see it in action. And finally, we'll wrap up by tackling 3 of the biggest questions this tech is raising for all of us.
So what was the spark? We've had AI around for decades, right? But this felt like a genuine game changer. Let's break down exactly why.
All right, this slide really gets to the core of it. For years, we've had what you could call traditional AI, and it's great at sorting and classifying things. It looks at a bunch of data and makes a prediction, like, is this a picture of a cat or is this email spam? But generative AI is a whole different beast. It doesn't just categorize things, it actually creates brand new stuff.
A report from Goldman Sachs really hit the nail on the head, pointing out 3 things that made this feel so revolutionary. First, it's not for just one little task, it's general purpose. You can ask it to write a poem, help you with code, or even plan your next vacation. Second, it's generative. It's not just finding information, it's creating something new from scratch. And third, and this is the real kicker, the interface is just so easy to use. You don't need to know how to code, you just talk to it in plain English.
Okay, so it feels revolutionary, but how in the world does it actually work? It can seem like straight-up magic, but when you look under the hood, the main idea is actually surprisingly simple.
At the very heart of all this is something called a large language model, or an LLM for short. Really, you can just think of it as a massive statistical engine. It's been trained on a truly gigantic amount of text from the internet, books, you name it, all to learn the patterns and the structure of how we humans talk and write.
Building one of these things basically happens in 3 steps. First, you feed it an almost unimaginable amount of data. We're talking trillions of words. Second, and this is the absolute key to everything, you train the model to do one simple thing over and over and over. Guess the next word in a sentence. And third, you fine-tune it with human feedback to make sure the answers it gives are actually helpful and, not crazy. So here's the crucial thing to remember. When you ask ChatGPT a question, it's not thinking or understanding like a person does. It is performing an incredibly complex act of prediction. It's just calculating the most probable next word, and then the next one, and the one after that, until it builds a complete sentence that makes sense. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like autocomplete on steroids. Okay, that's a lot of theory. So let's make this real. We're going to ground this in a perfect example that the Harvard course explores: university admissions. This is where you can really see all this abstract tech collide with the real world.
And all of a sudden, you've got this incredibly powerful new tool in the hands of both the student applying and the office doing the admitting. On one side, an applicant can use it to polish their resume or get help writing that big essay, but on the other side, the admissions office can use it to screen candidates, maybe even try to reduce bias or just get through thousands of applications a little faster.
But this creates a really fascinating and complex dilemma, especially for the schools, because now they're trying to figure out how to operate in a world where the old rules of the game have just been totally thrown out the window.
And this illustrates the paradox perfectly. Think about how wild this is. A student might feed the AI a few bullet points about their volunteer work and have it spin up a beautiful 500-word essay. Then, an overworked admissions officer on the other side might take that exact same essay and feed it into another AI to shrink it back down to a few bullet points for a quick review. It's a brand new AI-driven loop.
So what happens when you actually put this to the test? Well, the Harvard class ran an experiment. They looked at essays that were generated by AI, written by humans, and edited by AI. The result? The students in the class couldn't reliably tell them apart. The takeaway is pretty clear. That line between what's human work and what's machine work is blurring, and it is blurring really, really fast.
This whole admissions dilemma is really just a tiny example of a much bigger shift happening in our society. So let's zoom out and tackle the 3 big questions that the course brings up. Questions that all of us really need to start thinking about.
First up is the alignment question. An admissions office can say it values things like diversity or leadership, but can you really program an AI to truly understand those deep, nuanced human values? How do we make sure these tools are actually aligned with what we want, and not just chasing some simple metric that leads to all sorts of problems we didn't see coming?
Next, you've got the privacy question. These models are trained on our data, our blog posts, our articles, our creative work, all of it. So, do you have a right to opt out? A right to say, hey, my words, my data, that's not for you to use to train your model. It's a really fundamental question about what our rights are in this new digital age.
And finally, the big one, the labor question. Is this AI going to be a tool that helps us do our jobs better, that augments our skills and makes us way more productive? Or is it simply going to replace us, making entire job categories just disappear? This whole debate between augmentation and replacement is one of the most important conversations we could possibly be having right now.
And so we end on this thought. We know this technology is an incredible prediction engine. It can predict our language with absolutely stunning accuracy. But the real question, the one that truly matters in the end, is this. Is predicting our world the same thing as understanding it? That's the question we're all going to have to answer together.